Okay, optimization, the button, and the reason we've been going through all of these videos. So you've really arrived at your destination, the optimization button. Um, we will discuss the scenario options in the last section, which is the next line down. But let's talk a little bit about some of your other options here. You have the optimization method, where your options are maximizing utility for your budget, because remember this will be cost benefit. It will try to spend all of your money to get the most utility change possible from your system. Or minimal cost, say you set performance measure minimums, then it will spend what it needs to get to that threshold and then no more. If you didn't give it enough budget to reach that minimum threshold, then it will let you know in the errors that pop up below. Your next option there is to keep assigned projects. This is where you tell the optimizer to, say, respect the projects you've assigned to this program, model them as completed, account for them in the funding, and work around them. Or you can just say, ignore everything I've got. Don't keep any of the assigned projects. Respecting external frozen projects. Let's say that the STIP is your only set of frozen projects in this instance of BRM. So for all of your hypothetical programs that you're creating, you can just reference those frozen projects. You can respect the projects that are frozen in that other program without having to copy them all to this program as well and kind of make a mess of the ones you've set up for your STIP. Notice also that the summary of all of our settings from before is listed there in the program information. Now, once you click the Run Optimization, the optimizer is running in a separate process in the background on your server. So if you log out of BRM and come back, the process will still be running. This way can run for hours or days, or say you go really crazy or you have almost no RAM and it may take weeks. You don't need to keep the app logged in that entire time. Should you need to abort the process, you can do so with the red button, Abort Optimization. This background process is going to compete for resources on the server. So if you try to generate crystal reports, say lots of them, or to run very large reports like say the 23 metric report, both the report and the optimizer are going to take longer because they will compete for those resources. Or if your server isn't really dedicated to BRM and shares resources with something like ProjectWise, both will run slower during the optimization. Only one optimization can be run at a time. This is what you would see if you went in as either if you went to a different program or if you were another user accessing this page. It would tell you which one is currently running. In this case, the example 5-year rehab and replace is currently being optimized, so you can't run another program right now. That other user could go to that program and see its progress, though. Once completed, the projects are going to be listed out below, along with the edit button that will take you to the details of that project. Notice a few things here. As all the low-hanging fruit are caught in the first few years, the optimizer starts to recommend more replacements in later years, leading to less projects being recommended with each year. I didn't set out a minimum project amount on the earlier screens, so here you're seeing that the optimizer recommended a $62 project. This is why you set those project minimums, is so that you don't see small amounts of work being recommended here. Now what you set those minimums at is going to depend on how your state does work. If you have, say, a pool contract for pothole patching, you may be willing to go as low as, say, $5,000 worth of work. If it's only things that have to be contracted out individually, projects that have to be advertised, you may set that much higher, like $75,000 or $100,000 minimum. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish and what your resources are. Okay. The program results page has a few fixed graphs to give you information about the performance of your program. Notice that this program focuses on the NHS bridges in the first year and then move to the non-NHS bridges, and that you can see in the performance by segment in the first graph. On the top right, you'll see the benefit cost frontier. This is basically showing you the horizon for the most optimal projects. If we had applied minimum constraints to the performance measures, you could have seen the little green pyramid shape move down and to the right, away from most cost effective, because the optimizer wasn't just going for most optimal, it was also chasing our minimum constraints. That will give you a measure of how far away from that line you are, as a measure of how far from optimal you are. For more information about the multivariable optimization, you can contact the help desk, or you can we can recommend some Wikipedia articles that will give you a good background on multivariable optimization and the Pareto horizon, which essentially is what this curve is showing you. Now, in the bottom left, future performance by year, this shows you how the utility score average responds over the years of our program. In this case, you'll see that it is slightly downward, with upticks each year when the work is being modeled as being completed. That downward trend is indicating to us that we're probably not spending enough to counter the deterioration of the system. And you can see that visually here. We're probably not spending enough. And then on the bottom right is your effects on the utility criteria. So you can see that how much of the utility score each year is being made up by the condition or changes in condition, by life cycle, and mobility and risk. We also have the executive summary page, which includes charts that you can configure to your agency's practice. You can set up what charts do you want to commonly see for each program on this page. You have options for pie charts. For pie charts that break out into sections. So for example, you can see at the top right we have how much of our poor structures are on or not on the NHS, and then you can select different years on that. The utility projections for on and not on the NHS. Condition projections. You can set that to be all of your segments or parts of your segments. You just click on edit parameters to see that. And then further down on that page, you can see what we call the spider graph. And that shows the percents that are moving from good to fair, fair to poor, and in this case those are higher than the ones which are moving back upwards from poor to fair or poor to good. So again, you're seeing we're probably not spending enough in this scenario to counter the deterioration of those structures. But you can visually see that at this point, and that way you can convey this information to the people that need to make the decisions about your funding. Now, talking about decisions of funding, we're about to go to the Scenario Explorer next, which gives you even more power in conveying this information.